On December 7, 1941, the Japanese Navy took action and launched an attack against America after the final ligament of their continually worsening relationship snapped. The Japanese Army bombed Pearl Harbor, the American naval base, killing over 2,402 Americans, wounding 1,282 men, and destroying 188 U.S. aircrafts. The next day, devastated President Franklin D. Roosevelt declared war on the Japanese, and America was officially involved in World War II. A few months later, on February 19, 1942, FDR signed Executive Order 9066, which consigned 120,000 Americans of Japanese descent to internment camps. FDR's order of internment applied to Japanese Americans living on the West Coast and about 1,200 living in Hawaii. In all, there were 10 relocation camps in the nation, all based in the western half of the United States. The Japanese American internees had to sell or leave almost everything they owned within a very short notice, usually from about 48 hours to a week. They were only allowed to bring what they could carry in their arms, and everything else they were forced to store, sell, or give away. They were given a long list of items that they were restricted from bringing with them, such as radios, books, and many other items. Japanese Americans left their homes, their properties, their businesses, and evacuated to Japanese internment camps. Their possessions sold for extremely low prices. For instance, one woman sold a 26-room hotel for only $500.
My grandma told me that she had to leave all her toys, her piano, her radio, and everything she loved. All she could bring with her was some clothes. She said that they were escorted by armed soldiers to prison-like camps surrounded by barbed wire, like they were criminals.
The living conditions of the internment camps were harsh. Many Japanese Americans died due to a lack of sufficient health care, too much stress, and even from too much heat from the sun. The amount of food they ate was scarce. They mostly ate fruit and vegetables cultivated in the camp. They were deprived of many of their daily needs, and life was far from convenient. Sue Takushige, a 20-year-old mother, claimed that when she and her husband moved to an internment camp in Arizona, the government would not provide milk for her 10-day-old child. As a result, all she could feed her baby was water. Life in the internment camp was rough. The worst part is, Japanese Americans had done nothing wrong to deserve this ill treatment. 62% of the Japanese Americans sent to internment camps were American citizens. At the end of the war, not a single Japanese American, citizen or non-citizen, was proven to be a traitor to the United States of America. In an interview about Japanese internment, former congressman and internment camp survivor Norman Mineta related a story about his childhood experiences at the internment camp. He stated, "I remember when they would say, 'Well, you're being interned for your own protection.' Well, as a 10 or 11-year-old kid, I knew that if I were here for my own protection, why were the machine guns pointing in at us and not out?" The treatment of the internees was unjust. The decision to send them to internment camps was mostly based off of racial prejudice. However, the government still found a way to justify their actions through propaganda. The government produced posters and videos claiming that the Japanese were willingly and voluntarily relocating in order to ensure the safety of America. Videos such as Out They Go claimed that relocation was for the safety and protection of both the Japanese Americans and everyone else as well. Although the American government claimed that its intentions were to keep the Japanese Americans safe, the internment camps treated them more like the enemies. The actions of the government were both immoral and unconstitutional. In 1980, President Jimmy Carter organized an investigation in order to determine if the government's decision to place the Japanese Americans in internment camps was justifiable. The results showed that the Japanese Americans had stayed very loyal to America at the time, and that an apology was necessary. It wasn't until 8 years later, in 1988, that America apologized for its ill treatment of innocent Japanese Americans, when Congress and President Ronald Reagan signed a document officially apologizing for the catastrophe. In the document, they stated that the government's actions were based on racial prejudice, war hysteria, and a failure of political leadership. In the end, the United States government ended up giving out over $2.6 billion to recompense the Japanese Americans for the damage they had caused them in the internment camps. The internment of Japanese Americans will forever be regretted as an embarrassing, unnecessary tragedy in which many innocent American citizens were persecuted and killed, and the constitutional right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness was imposed upon.
Hello, this is Kari Kim. I am doing a video presentation for Maxwell Downpour.
A Max and Co. production.
Stuff, guys. Can't do this right now. Here we go. Why are you sideways? Alright, here we go. Alright. Okay. So funny. Okay, forget what I'm trying to say.